Every Saturday we have a look at Unbound history, a period of British history, an event, something that happened, linked to a place you can visit in Britain. Today we're starting near Margate. So it's near Margate and Broadstairs, sitting in the middle of a field, pretty much forgotten, with a small lay-by, housing estate and a golf course next to it, at least a mile from the coast, is this small cross. But it's a very significant place because this used to be the beach, and this is where St Augustine landed and began the conversion of the Britons, the Anglo-Saxons, to Christianity. But really the story starts earlier, with a priest in a marketplace in Rome, and he saw some beautiful blonde children being sold as slaves because, yes, there was widespread slavery then. And the Angles were seen as pagans and therefore fair game for slavery. So he's supposed to have asked, who are these people? And they said, Angles. And he replied with a little joke, non Angli sed angeli, which means not angles but angels. He said that at that moment he decided that if he ever became Pope, he would convert them to Christianity and save their souls. Well, in 590 he became Pope, Pope Gregory I, later known as Pope Gregory the Great, and in 595 he charged a monk called Augustine with converting the Angles. But Augustine was a little shy and a bit scared of the wild British, so he dithered in northern France for a year, and in the end the Pope wrote to him and said, "You're going to get a warm welcome, get on that boat." So he came over, and the reason he'd get a warm welcome was that Princess Bertha had married Ethelred here, and Ethelred was the King of Kent. He was a confirmed pagan. He was very happy with that, but part of the marriage deal was that Bertha was allowed to continue to practice her Christianity. Though he gave her a small chapel, it was an old ruin, an old Roman building that dated back at least 400-500 years, and it's still here today, the oldest continuously practicing Christian church in the English-speaking world. Now, notice there's a lot of qualifications to that because there are some older buildings and some earlier ruins that were probably churches. But this was originally a temple, not really sure which god to. And over the time it's grown quite substantially. You can easily see 4 or 5 stages of growth. The most recent is this bell tower here. And the church is probably 4 times the size it was when Augustine came here. But Augustine arrived and he preached. And Ethelred was okay with it. He insisted on it being outside because he didn't want sorcery to wind its wicked ways with him. But his wife, she was a good wife. She was Christian. He was okay with it. So he let Augustine preach. And if you actually walk round the back of the church, you can kind of see from the outside the Roman bricks and the Roman structure. A lot of the inside floors been raised. But if you actually look out here, you can see elements of here. The old church, the old temple. Obviously the windows been added. You can kind of see where the doors have been patched. There was a door on either side, and church windows have been cut in at this end. But this is a building that in part dates back to probably 100 AD, maybe 200 AD. And this is where Augustine first practiced. And you can see the history written into the fabric of the building. The holes for the rood screen there that was torn down during the Reformation. There's even a hole in the wall here where a chest of chisholm was found. I think it's a chisholmery. And chisholm is the black oil that's put on the forehead during Holy Week. and it's used for blessings. Well, during the Reformation that fell out of favour, so it was hidden away in the church. It's one of the few in the country. This arch on the right here and on the left, they're actually the original Roman and Anglo-Saxon entry points, which have been absorbed into the fabric of the building with successive changes. And you can see how the architecture's evolved here. At first sight, it's just any old church from maybe 500 years ago, but it doesn't take long to start realising it's a very special place. And that's a statue of Queen Bertha there. And Queen Bertha really helped with the growth of Christianity because of her patronage, and quite soon the king's patronage. As the royal family converted, I mean, you have to remember this royal family is more a tribe than a kingdom in the modern sense. But they converted, all their people converted, and then sisters and cousins of hers who married to other kingdoms within Britain followed the very similar process. And before long, St Augustine was building an abbey that's hidden to the left here, and after that the cathedral in the distance there, which is the modern Canterbury Cathedral. But really all because of Bertha, because Augustine didn't have the bravery to get in a boat to England on his own. He would have spent a very long time. When you come into the cathedral, there's actually a list of all the archbishops of Canterbury, and Augustine was the very first there. For centuries, the story of not angels but angels was taught to every school child in Britain. Now it's a bit of a dull and forgotten joke in many ways. But at the time, and for many centuries afterwards, this was seen as a truly significant event. Pope Gregory the Great was canonised pretty much on the day of his funeral because of his missionary work in converting the Angles. And Augustine was canonised so long ago, it was before the Pope got to choose who were saints. And today, what remains is this beautiful cathedral with just stunning perpendicular columns, beautiful style, rising to the sky, and a prayer to God was what this style of architecture was supposed to be. A peasant who lives in a 1 or 2 floor house walks into a building like this, and they appreciate there's something bigger than them, something greater than them. And this church has got a lot of events. I'm sure we'll be coming back here in the coming months. But a very beautiful place, and Canterbury's a lovely town, but I think it's nice to start near Margate in the middle of a field with an insignificant looking cross which really marks a turning point in British history. And I hope you'll join me next Saturday for another moment in British history. And don't forget to subscribe or you'll forget.